The massive doors of the Galactic Council chambers slide open with a deep rumble that echoes through the vast hall. Ambassador Minji steps forward, her black diplomatic uniform a stark contrast against the gleaming alien architecture that towers above her. Her footsteps click against the polished floor as hundreds of alien eyes track her movement. Some of these beings have ruled star systems for thousands of years, their civilizations ancient when humanity was still discovering fire. Minji reaches the center platform and activates her presentation device. A holographic display of Earth appears, rotating slowly as she begins to speak. Her voice carries clearly through the chamber's advanced acoustics, but she can already hear the whispered comments from the gallery above. The reptilian delegates from the Vorthak Empire lean back in their ornate chairs, their scales shimmering with amusement. One of them makes a sound that might be laughter, if laughter could sound like grinding metal. The Nexari Collective representatives don't even bother hiding their contempt. Their cybernetic implants glow brighter as they access their shared network, probably sharing jokes about the primitive humans and their quaint little planet. Ambassador Minji continues her presentation, showing Earth's technological achievements, but she knows what they see. Chemical rockets that barely escape their own gravity well, nuclear weapons that seem like firecrackers compared to antimatter bombs, space stations that look like toys next to their kilometer-long battle cruisers. Council Chairman Veltar rises from his throne-like seat. His species, the ancient Korvani, have been mediating galactic disputes since before most civilizations. Learn to build starships. His forearms spread wide in what passes for a generous gesture among his kind. When he speaks, his voice carries the weight of millennia. The Council recognizes humanity's enthusiasm, he begins, and several delegates chuckle at his diplomatic choice of words. We hereby grant Earth Observer status within our great alliance. Perhaps in a few centuries, when your species has matured sufficiently, we may revisit full membership. The dismissal is complete. Observer status means humanity gets to watch from the sidelines, while real civilizations handle galactic politics. They can send reports that nobody will read and attend meetings where nobody will listen to them. It's the galactic equivalent of giving a child a toy steering wheel while the adults drive the car. But Ambassador Minji simply bows gracefully and thanks the Council for their consideration. She doesn't mention the encrypted message she received just before the session began. She doesn't tell them about the construction projects happening in the dark spaces beyond Neptune. And she certainly doesn't reveal that Admiral Junho has been expecting this outcome for months. Far from the glittering halls of the Galactic Council, in the cold depths of the Kuiper Belt, something extraordinary is taking shape. Admiral Junho floats in the observation deck of Construction Platform Alpha, watching as automated systems piece together structures that dwarf anything humanity has ever built. The shipyard stretches for hundreds of kilometers in every direction, hidden behind sophisticated stealth fields that make it invisible to even the most advanced alien sensors. The ships being built here don't look like anything in the galactic databases. Where other species focus on size and firepower, these vessels prioritize something entirely different. Their hulls are designed to contain and channel forces that most civilizations consider too dangerous to harness. The engineering principles behind them would revolutionize galactic technology if anyone knew they existed. Workers in environmental suits swarm over the construction sites like industrious ants. Most of them are volunteers who signed up for the most classified project in human history. They work in shifts around the clock, knowing that every day of delay could mean the difference between humanity's survival and its extinction. The galaxy is not a kind place to weak species, and Earth's performance at the Council today proved just how weak they appear to everyone else. Admiral Junho watches a massive component being installed in the nearest vessel's core. The technology inside that component represents decades of secret research, building on theories that alien scientists dismissed as impossible. While the galaxy's greatest minds focused on incremental improvements to existing technology, humanity had quietly pursued an entirely different path. They had learned to think outside the box that confined everyone else's imagination. The Admiral's communication device chirps softly, Ambassador Minji's face appears on the small screen. Her expression carefully neutral despite being in an encrypted channel. Her observer status confirmed, she reports. They're treating us exactly as expected. Admiral Junho nods. Good. How long before they move against the outer colonies? Intelligence suggests the Kalos hegemony will test us within the month. They're already positioning fleets near our border systems. Let them come, the Admiral replies, looking back at the ships taking shape in the darkness. It's time the galaxy learned what humanity is really capable of. The war fleet of the Kalos hegemony drops out of hyperspace at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system like a pack of hungry wolves. 50 massive battleships, their hulls scarred from countless conquests, spread into attack formation. Commander Yulketh stands on the bridge of his flagship, the Decimator, watching the tactical displays with anticipation. His species, the Kalos, had built their empire on the simple principle that might makes right. Today would be another easy addition to their growing territory. Long-range sensors show human settlements on the second and third planets, reports his tactical officer. No defensive fleets detected, no orbital weapons platforms, nothing but civilian installations. Commander Yulketh's mandibles click together, in what passes for a smile among his kind. This would be even easier than expected. The humans had proven their weakness at the Galactic Council just weeks ago, begging for scraps of recognition from their betters. Now they would learn what happened to species too weak to defend themselves. Begin standard intimidation protocols, he orders. Broadcast our demands for surrender across all human frequencies. The message goes out immediately, transmitted in 17 different languages, including primitive human English. The terms are simple and brutal, as always. Complete surrender of all human assets in the system. Immediate evacuation of all personnel to designated detention facilities. Transfer of all technological resources to hegemony control. Standard operating procedure for the conquest of inferior species. But something strange happens as the fleet moves deeper into the system. The human colonies don't respond to their demands. No panicked transmissions, no desperate pleas for mercy, no frantic evacuation attempts. The settlements just sit there in silence like ghost towns floating in space. So we're getting closer to the first colony, the tactical officer reports, confusion creeping into his voice. But I'm not detecting any life signs, Commander. Yulketh frowns and moves to examine the sensor readings himself. The colony is intact, all buildings and infrastructure undamaged, but completely empty. No humans, no energy signatures from active systems, no signs of recent habitation. It's as if the entire population simply vanished into thin air. Check the other settlements, he orders. The results are the same, everywhere they look. Mining, stations, research facilities, agricultural domes, residential complexes, all empty. Every human installation in the system has been abandoned so thoroughly that it looks like they were never occupied at all. The hegemony fleet finds itself conquering. Empty buildings and silent machinery. But Commander Yulketh is nothing if not adaptable. Within hours, he's spinning the situation to his advantage. If the humans abandoned their colonies rather than fight, that just proves how cowardly and weak they really are. He orders his communications officer to begin broadcasting victory messages across the galactic networks. This is Commander Yulketh of the Kalos hegemony. His voice booms across subspace channels that reach every corner of known space. The human colony of Proxima Centauri has fallen to our superior forces. The pathetic humans fled rather than face us in honorable combat, abandoning their own people and property to our rightful conquest. The broadcast spreads like wildfire through the galactic communication networks. News agencies pick up the story within hours. Military analysts discuss the implications of humanity's apparent cowardice. Social commentators debate whether Earth deserves even observer status in the Galactic Council if they won't defend their own colonies. The reaction is swift and predictable. Species that had already looked down on humanity now see them as even weaker than before. The Vorthak Empire issues a statement expressing disappointment in humanity's lack of backbone. The Nexari Collective quietly upgrades their assessment of human military capability from minimal threat to negligible factor. But nowhere is the response more telling than in the elegant chambers of the Galactic Council itself. Ambassador, Minji sits in the designated human observer section, a small chair tucked away in the corner, where she can watch but not participate. Around her, the real members of the council discuss the Proxima incident with barely concealed disdain. "Perhaps we were too generous in granting them observer status," suggests the Vorthak representative, his reptilian features twisted in disgust. "A species that abandons its own colonies at the first sign of trouble hardly deserves recognition among civilized beings." Several other delegates murmur agreement. The general consensus seems to be that humanity has revealed its true nature, and that nature is fundamentally cowardly. Council Chairman Veltar calls for order and addresses Ambassador Minji directly. "The Council extends its sympathies to Earth for the loss of your colony," he says, his forearms spread in a gesture that might be compassionate if it weren't so obviously patronizing. "Perhaps this unfortunate incident will serve as a learning experience. The galaxy can be a dangerous place for those unprepared to defend themselves." Ambassador Minji rises from her seat and bows respectfully. "The people of Earth thank the Council for their concern," she replies, her voice steady and diplomatic. "We deeply regret the loss of our colonial assets and will certainly take this experience to heart." Her words are perfect, expressing just the right amount of regret and humility. But behind her carefully composed expression, she's thinking about the encrypted message she received that morning. Admiral Junho's response is already in motion, moving through the darkness between stars, at speeds the galaxy has never seen before. The Kalos hegemony thinks they've won an easy victory. The Galactic Council thinks humanity has revealed its weakness. Neither of them realizes they're about to witness something that will change their understanding of power forever. The sensor technician aboard the hegemony flagship Decimator stares at his display screen in confusion. The readings don't make sense. Something massive is approaching the Proxima Centauri system, but the gravitational signatures are unlike anything in their extensive databases. The distortions in space-time itself suggest objects of incredible mass, yet they're moving at speeds that should be impossible for anything that large. "Commander Yolketh, you need to see this," the technician calls out, his voice tight with concern. Commander Yolketh stomps over to the sensor station, his heavy boots echoing across the bridge. For 3 weeks, his fleet has been systematically looting the abandoned human colonies, cataloging their primitive technology and stripping anything of value. It's been boring work, hardly worthy of the hegemony's elite forces, but profitable. "Nonetheless, what am I looking at?" he demands, studying the swirling patterns on the screen. "Unknown contacts approaching from the outer system. The gravitational readings are strange, sir. It's like space itself is being twisted around these objects." Commander Yulketh's mandibles click nervously. In his 40 years of military service, he's seen every type of starship design the galaxy has to offer. Fast attack cruisers, massive dreadnoughts, even the legendary planet killers of the ancient Corvani. But he's never seen sensor readings like this. "How many ships are we talking about?" "That's just it, sir. The signatures suggest only 12 objects, but each one is generating gravitational effects equivalent to a small moon. Either our sensors are malfunctioning, or these things are impossibly massive." The bridge falls silent as every officer turns to stare at the main display. 12 contacts are indeed approaching, moving in perfect formation through the darkness of space. But as they draw closer, something becomes visible that makes several crew members gasp in shock. The approaching ships are burning, not burning. Like damaged vessels trailing fire and debris, but burning like captured stars. Their hulls glow with intense light that pulses and flickers like living flame. Energy readings are off the charts, showing power outputs that dwarf anything the hegemony has ever encountered. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," the communications officer reports, his voice barely above a whisper. "On screen, Commander," Yulketh orders, though his usual confidence has evaporated. The main display flickers and resolves into the image of a human bridge. But this isn't the primitive command center they would expect from Earth's backward technology. The walls seem to be made of some kind of crystalline material that pulses within a light. Control stations hover in midair without visible support. And standing at the center of it all is a human officer, whose uniform bears no resemblance to anything in their intelligence files. Captain Hyanwu of the human vessel Eternal Dawn looks directly into the camera with calm, dark eyes. When he speaks, his voice carries the quiet authority of someone who has never needed to raise it to be obeyed. "Commander Yulketh of the Kalos Hegemony," he begins, and somehow he knows exactly who he's addressing despite never having met before. "You are currently occupying human territory without permission. You have exactly 60 seconds to begin evacuation procedures." Commander Yulketh's mandibles spread wide in what his species considers threatening display. "You dare threaten the Kalos Hegemony with 12 ships? We have 50 vessels, each one capable of reducing your pathetic fleet to scrap metal." Captain Hyunwoo's expression doesn't change. 59 seconds remaining. "Open fire on all human." "Contacts," Commander Yulketh roars. "Show these primitives what real firepower looks like." The Hegemony fleet responds instantly. 50 battleships unleash everything they have. Antimatter torpedoes streak through space trailing brilliant contrails. Energy beams powerful enough to crack planets lance out toward the human ships. Kinetic. Projectiles accelerated to significant fractions of light speed create visible distortions as they tear through the vacuum. But something impossible happens when the weapons reach their targets. The energy beams simply bend around the human ships, as if space itself is deflecting them. The antimatter torpedoes detonate harmlessly against invisible barriers. The kinetic projectiles slow to a stop and drift away like harmless debris. "Captain." Hyunwoo checks his chronometer. Time's up. What happens next will be remembered as the moment galactic warfare changed forever. The human dreadnoughts don't return fire with conventional weapons. Instead, something far more terrifying occurs. The burning light within their hull suddenly intensifies, and beams of pure stellar energy reach out to touch the Hegemony vessels. The first Kalos battleship to be touched by these beams doesn't explode in the traditional sense. Instead, fusion reactions begin spontaneously within its hull plating. The entire vessel becomes a miniature star for exactly 12 seconds, burning with the same intensity as the surface of a sun, before expanding into a cloud of superheated plasma that glows like a nebula. One by one, the Hegemony ships undergo the same transformation. Their hulls don't melt or break apart, they simply begin fusing at the atomic level. The crews have perhaps 3 seconds to realize what's happening before their ships become brief but brilliant additions to the cosmic light show. Commander Yulketh watches in horror as his entire fleet is systematically converted into expanding balls of plasma. His own ship is one of the last to be touched by the human weapons, giving him just enough time to send a final transmission before the decimator joins its sisters as a glowing cloud of ionized gas. Within 2 hours, the Proxima Centauri system is quiet again. 12 human dreadnoughts patrol serenely through space that now contains 50 small nebulae where the Hegemony fleet used to be. Captain Hyunwoo stands on his bridge, watching the last of the plasma clouds expand and fade, then turns to his communications officer. "Send a message to Admiral Junho. Proxima Centauri is secure, no survivors. The age of humanity hiding in the shadows has officially ended." The first reports arrive through standard military channels, buried among routine status updates and supply requisitions. A single line in a Hegemony fleet manifest. "Contact lost, with Proxima Occupation Force investigating." Nobody pays much attention initially. Communication blackouts happen all the time in the outer systems, usually due to solar storms or equipment failures. But then the automated distress beacons start going silent, one by one. 50 separate emergency transmitters, each designed to broadcast continuously unless manually deactivated, simply stop functioning within the span of 2 hours. That's when the Kalos High Command begins to worry. The first reconnaissance probe sent to investigate Proxima Centauri brings back footage that senior military analysts initially dismiss as sensor malfunction. The recordings show expanding clouds of superheated plasma where the fleet should be, glowing with temperatures that register in the millions of degrees. More disturbing are the gravitational readings that suggest massive objects moving through the system, objects that bend light around themselves like mobile black holes. Within hours, the story leaks to the galactic news networks. The initial reports are cautious, describing an incident at Proxima Centauri and the disappearance of a Hegemony fleet. But as more data pours in from long-range sensors across the galaxy, the true scope of what happened becomes impossible to ignore. Dr. Kalani, the galaxy's foremost expert on stellar physics, appears on the Nixari news network, looking visibly shaken. She spent her entire career studying the fundamental forces that govern stars and space, but what she's seeing in the Proxima data contradicts everything she thought she knew. The energy signatures are consistent with controlled stellar fusion, she explains to the bewildered anchor, her multiple arms gesticulating wildly. But that's impossible. No known technology can contain and direct fusion reactions of this magnitude. The gravitational fields required would collapse any known material into neutronium. The anchor, a cybernetically enhanced being whose implants glow nervously, presses for clarification. Are you saying these human ships are somehow using stars as weapons? I'm saying they appear to be carrying miniature stars inside their hulls, Dr. Kalani replies, her voice barely above a whisper. The power requirements alone should have torn their ships apart the moment they activated such systems. This violates at least a dozen fundamental principles of physics as we understand them. Similar conversations are happening on news networks across the galaxy. Military experts who once dismissed human technology as primitive now struggle to explain sensor readings that show impossible energy outputs and gravitational manipulations that shouldn't exist. The consensus among the scientific community rapidly shifts from skepticism to outright panic. The Vorthak Empire's Military Intelligence Division calls an emergency session to analyze the Proxima incident. Their war room, carved from a single, massive crystal that amplifies psychic communication, fills with the Empire's most senior strategists. General Thesic, veteran of 100 campaigns, stares at the holographic display showing the battle's aftermath. 50 ships, he says slowly, his scaled hide rippling with agitation. 50 of the hegemony's best battleships reduced to glowing gas in under 2 hours, by 12 human vessels that, according to our intelligence, shouldn't even exist. His aide, a younger officer with freshly scarred battle marks, ventures a question. Could this be some kind of new weapon system they've been developing in secret? General Thesic's laugh is a harsh, grating sound. Developing? This isn't development, this is revolution. What we're seeing here represents a complete paradigm shift in military technology. While we've been improving our antimatter yields by percentage points, they've learned to weaponize stellar physics itself. But the real shock comes when long-range sensors begin detecting similar energy signatures throughout human space, not just at Proxima Centauri, but emerging from the outer edges of the Sol system itself. Dozens of contacts, each one burning, with contained stellar fire, moving through space in ways that make seasoned navigators dizzy just watching the sensor readings. The Galactic Council convenes an emergency session within 48 hours of the first reports. The Great Chamber, usually filled with dignified debate and measured discourse, buzzes with barely controlled panic. Representatives who had dismissed humanity just weeks ago now demand answers about ships that bend reality around themselves. Ambassador. Minji enters the chamber to find hundreds of alien eyes focused on her with a mixture of fear and accusation. But today, she doesn't take her usual seat in the observer section. Instead, she walks to the center of the chamber, to the speaking platform reserved for full council members. Council Chairman Veltar rises from his throne, all four arms spread in confusion. Ambassador, you are not recognized to speak from the central platform. Observer status grants you... Observer status, Minji interrupts smoothly, was granted to a species you believe to be primitive and developing. That species no longer exists. The chamber falls completely silent. Even the ambient hum of life support systems seems to pause as every being present focuses on the small human woman standing alone at the center of galactic power. For the past 50 years, she continues, her voice carrying clearly through the vast space, humanity has been watching you, studying your technologies, your politics, your military capabilities. We applied for membership not because we needed your protection or guidance, but because we wanted to observe how you would treat what you perceived as a weaker species. The Vorthak representative hisses in anger. You deceived the council. You... Lied about your capabilities. Minji turns to face him directly. We told you exactly what our capabilities were. Chemical rockets, nuclear weapons, orbital stations. All of that was true. What we didn't mention was what we were building while you laughed at our primitiveness. She activates a holographic projector that fills the chamber with images of human dreadnoughts, their hulls blazing with stellar fire. While your scientists focused on incremental improvements to existing technology, we revolutionized the fundamental principles of energy manipulation. While your engineers built bigger guns, we learned to turn matter itself into weapons. The images shift to show the construction yards in the Kuiper Belt, massive installations that dwarf anything the galaxy has ever seen. We didn't seek your membership because we needed it. We sought it to see if a galaxy that claims to be civilized could recognize potential in those who appeared different. Council Chairman Veltar's voice wavers as he speaks. What do you want from us? Ambassador Minji's smile is neither cruel nor kind, but something far more unsettling. It's the smile of someone who has been patient for a very long time, and whose patience has finally been rewarded. What we've always wanted, she replies. A galaxy where strength doesn't automatically mean the right to prey on the weak. The age of might makes right is over. A new era begins today. The emergency sessions begin within hours of Ambassador Minji's revelation. Across the galaxy, governments that have existed for millennia suddenly find themselves scrambling to understand a completely changed universe. In the Vorthak Empire's Crystal War Room, General Thesic stares at tactical displays that show human dreadnoughts materializing throughout their territory like ghosts stepping out of shadows. How many? He asks his intelligence officer, though he's not sure he wants to hear the answer. Current count is over 300 confirmed contacts, sir. But the gravitational distortions suggest there could be twice that number using some kind of stealth technology we can't detect. General Thesic's scaled hide ripples with involuntary fear responses. 300 ships, each one capable of turning entire fleets into glowing plasma. The mathematics of resistance are simple and terrifying. The Vorthak Empire, which has ruled a dozen star systems for over 2,000 years, has become irrelevant overnight. Similar scenes play out across known space. The Nexari Collective's cybernetic hive mind, usually capable of processing millions of calculations simultaneously, actually experiences what humans might call a panic attack as their sensors detect human vessels appearing in systems they thought were impossible to reach. Their perfect mechanical logic breaks down when confronted with technology that violates the fundamental assumptions their entire civilization is built upon. The hegemony of Kalos, still reeling from the complete destruction of their Proxima fleet, watches in growing horror as human ships take position around their core worlds. These aren't invasion fleets preparing for conquest. They're something far more unsettling. Guardians waiting patiently for orders, their stellar fires casting new shadows across planets that have known only the light of their own suns for generations. On the Kalos homeworld, Supreme War Leader, Malthan receives reports from every corner of their empire. The same story repeats with mechanical precision. Human dreadnoughts have appeared in every major system, not attacking, not demanding surrender, just waiting. Their presence is a constant reminder that the rules of the galaxy have fundamentally changed. But it's not just the military powers that are scrambling to adapt. Smaller species that have spent centuries as prey animals in the galactic ecosystem suddenly find themselves under the protection of beings they never imagined could exist. The peaceful Althari, whose crystal cities have been raided for resources by more aggressive neighbors for generations, wake up to find human ships orbiting their homeworld like benevolent angels. Captain Hyunwoo stands on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, now positioned in the heart of what was once hegemony space. His orders are clear, delivered personally by Admiral Junho in an encrypted transmission that traveled faster than light through channels the galaxy doesn't know exist. The time for hiding is over. Humanity will no longer watch from the shadows while the strong prey upon the weak. His communications officer looks up from her station. Sir, we're receiving surrender offers from 17 different governments. The Vorthak Empire is requesting immediate diplomatic negotiations. The Nexari Collective they're actually offering to share their entire technological database, in exchange for protection. Captain Hyunwoo nods calmly. Fear makes even the proudest civilizations reasonable. But humanity isn't interested in tribute or submission born from terror. They want something far more valuable, genuine change. Open a channel to all frequencies, he orders, galaxy-wide broadcast. Across hundreds of star systems, every communications device capable of receiving transmissions suddenly activates. On alien homeworlds, in military command centers, aboard merchant vessels and exploration ships, beings who have never worked together in their lives find themselves listening to the same human voice. This is Captain Hyunwoo of the Earth Defense Force, he begins, his words translating automatically into thousands of languages through technology that makes universal translators look like children's toys. You have all seen what happened at Proxima Centauri. You understand that the balance of power in this galaxy has shifted permanently. He pauses, letting the weight of that statement settle across countless worlds. In the Galactic Council chambers, Ambassador Minji watches the broadcast alongside representatives who had dismissed her species just weeks ago. Their expressions range from terror to grudging respect, but none of them look away. Humanity does. Not come as conquerors, Captain Hyunwoo continues. We come as gardeners. For too long this galaxy has operated on the principle that might makes right. The strong have preyed upon the weak, enslaved developing civilizations and waged wars. Of expansion without consequence, that era ends today. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Junho watches similar broadcasts being transmitted from Dreadnoughts positioned throughout human space. Each captain delivers the same message, but personalized for their specific region. The effect is overwhelming. For the first time in galactic history, every civilized world is hearing the same words at the same time. The new order is simple, Captain Hyunwoo explains. Species that have built their power on oppression have one choice: abandon your predatory ways and join a galaxy based on cooperation, or face the consequences of continued aggression. Those who have suffered under the old system now have protectors who will not be intimidated, bribed, or defeated. The response is immediate and dramatic. The hegemony of Kalos, faced with human dreadnoughts hanging over every one of their worlds, formally announces the dissolution of their slave-based economy within hours. The Vorthak Empire, whose raiding fleets have terrorized smaller civilizations for millennia, recalls every military vessel to defensive positions around their own territory. But perhaps most telling is the reaction of the previously powerless. The Althari, free from the threat of raiders for the first time in their recorded history, begin broadcasting songs of joy that reach across their entire sector. Dozens of developing species that had been too afraid to even request Galactic Council recognition suddenly find the courage to announce their existence to the wider galaxy. Ambassador. Minji stands before the Galactic Council one final time, but now she addresses them as an equal. The chamber that once echoed with condescending laughter now hangs in respectful silence. The galaxy you knew is gone, she tells them simply. In its place, we offer something better. A civilization where strength serves justice, where the advanced protect the developing, and where the measure of a species is not the size of their fleet, but the kindness they show to those who cannot defend themselves. Outside the council chambers, through the vast windows that look out into space, the stars shine with a different quality of light. Human dreadnoughts patrol the space lanes, their stellar fires visible across impossible distances. The galaxy has entered a new age, and for the first time in recorded history, the future belongs not to the strong but to the just. The age of humanity has begun.